Hey there, friends and foes. Good evening, multiverse. This is not Saturday morning. This is Wednesday night. And I am John Pica, the prophet of pop culture. You can call me Johnny. And right beside me, that way, I feel like the scarecrow. That way is VIP Patreon member Dennis Pozzi. And he is our very special host tonight as we talk about Mystery Inc., Mystery Incorporated, as Scoobtober continues. And Dennis, you are the co-owner of Books and More in Pulaski, Tennessee. Tell our audience a little bit about that shop.
So we're in the small town Tennessee, and we are right on the square, right across from the courthouse, and it's a pretty big building. We have used books, and we have new board games, and we have a library of about 300 games. You can just come in, take it off the shelf, sit down and play it, know whether or not it's the kind of game you would want to own, and we are happy to give recommendations about that. And we host a game night once a week. What we've hosted for years since before the pandemic.
What night of the week
And
is that?
that is a Thursday night, so tomorrow night.
I wish I could be there. That's a heck of a drive for me. And
Yeah, it is.
And I've got a gig tomorrow night. But hey, before we dive into tonight's topic, we need to thank a few people. Our Cereal Box super friends, and these are our Patreon supporters who make this show possible. And you too can be a contributor. You can join our community, as it were, at patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast. And at the VIP level, like Dennis is, you get to host your own show once a month. And Dennis, we need to welcome a brand new Patreon. She just joined, or he joined. I don't know if it's a he or she, but Sandy Servetsky joined our Patreon community just an hour ago. And welcome, Sandy. So
welcome, Sandy.
Glad to have you aboard. Now, Dennis, how do you want to do this? Do you want to jump into Mystery Incorporated first, or do you want to show off your new loot, your prizes from the cereal box?
Let's start with let's start with the show. Let's get into Scooby-Doo mood
Okay.
first. Yeah.
So we're talking about Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, and Dennis, you and I were talking off air that many people consider this like the definitive Scooby-Doo.
I can see why. I think I agree as well. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen every kind of Scooby-Doo that's out there, but based on the reasons why people think this is the best, I agree. Better character arcs, more interesting storylines, overarching stories that go over the whole season or the whole series. Really recurring, interesting villains. It's got so much. Yeah.
It was truly episodic. And before this, the last Scooby-Doo episodic show was 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. That had that continuing storyline. But that was 1985, and it was, in my opinion, subpar. I was not kind to that series on our review last week. But this Scooby-Doo show was one that we watched religiously as it was coming out week to week. And, you know, I became a Scooby-Doo fan, Dennis, later in life, after I got married and after I had kids. My wife was obsessed with Scooby-Doo, and she got me watching, you know, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, The Witch's Ghost, you know, the movies. And over time, I came to appreciate it and become a fan. But it was this series that tied in so much of the Scooby-Doo lore and filled in gaps. And I love the show not only because it had the classic Scooby Gang, and look, they did some updated character models, but it wasn't crazy. that they were unrecognizable. There's the one of the more recent Scooby-Doo series, Be Cool Scooby-Doo or something like that,
Yeah.
where the character models are almost unrecognizable. But here's what I loved about this, Dennis. The cameos.
Yes. And the cameos sometimes of the original voice actors, bringing back beloved characters from a previous series, little homages, little. There's even a little Scrappy statue at one point in
I
in one of
remember
the
that.
episodes.
I remember that. Now, can you name all of these characters in this cameo shot?
I've seen them all, but I couldn't tell you all of their names. No.
All right. So from left to right, audiences left to our right, we've got Speed Buggy.
Yep.
Jabberjaws, Captain Caveman, of course, Scooby-Doo, and the Funky Phantom, don't you know?
And he's the only one that I don't recall actually seeing before. But yeah, I definitely watched that that car and that shark before, and the Captain Caveman. Yes.
Well, listen, you're not missing anything not being familiar with Funky Phantom. It
looks like they were saving money on color.
Well, it was a Scooby-Doo knockoff. Because Hanna-Barbera borrowed this theme. All of these characters came from Scooby-Doo copycats or knockoffs. Captain Caveman had the Teen Angels, the gang. They traveled in a van. Jabberjaw was the drummer in a pop band that all of the characters were modeled after the Scooby-Doo characters. And same thing with Speed Buggy. He was the vehicle and traveled with a group of teenage kids. And they were just using the formula over and over and copying it. So it was cool that those characters got a nod and were cameos in this series. But I mean, we got Johnny Quest and Race Bannon like going on the adventure with the Mystery Inc. gang. And my favorite is Blue Falcon. And I love this version of Blue Falcon. He's a little bit more serious. Of course, Dino Mutt was still goofy, but a little bit more effective than the original series. Did you watch Blue Falcon when you were a kid?
No, I don't think I did.
Dennis.
I don't think I did.
Oh, you got to see the Blue Falcon. And of course, the Hex Girls from the movies. But by the way, for those of you wondering, I'm enjoying some peanut butter chocolate Muddy Buddies, courtesy of General Mills cereal. They sent them to us for a taste test. And if you want to see if they cereal or not, go back and watch a previous episode. But can we talk about this?
Put milk on them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still want to try what you did with those Pop-Tarts. You had the Pop-Tart minis.
Oh, yeah.
And I still need to do that.
What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting to get the particular goal with my diet. That's like where I'm waiting for.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing I loved about this, Dennis. Talking about the updated models. Can we talk about how adorable Daphne was? And this show was a little bit more adult themed.
It is. Definitely.
It wasn't serious, and they leaned into that, especially with Daphne. We see her in a bikini more than once. And I, for one, am not complaining about that.
No. She's everybody's second favorite redhead there.
Who's the first?
Well, your wife's favorite redhead? Oh, she's on this show all the time.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. But,
Aubrey.
this show, yes, Yes. This show did one thing that no previous Scooby-Doo series had. It actually went there with the romantic relationships. But one that did not work and is a surprise was this one. Velma and Shaggy just did not work for me
Oh
at
no,
all.
and she's trying to change him, and she's kind of trying to come between him and Scooby is not having it. And yeah, they're just awful together. Uh, and it's interesting 'cause the creators have said that it was meant to be that way. That she was never meant to have a romantic relationship with a male character. So
But
that's
instead, we are introduced to this character.
so
Talk
this
to us
character's
about this.
so this her name is Marcy, but everybody calls her Hot Dog Water because when she's introduced, we find out that she's been living at this amusement park and they don't have enough money to use it's awful to use the fresh water in their showers, so they're reusing the hot dog. I mean, it's insane. But anyway, apparently she smelled like hot dog water or something. And they're all high school characters or high school people. So this nickname, Hot Dog Water, but her character she is very much like Velma. They are fighting, duking it out in the science fairs. They love books and science, and they really have a good like match for each other in the mental area. Now, early on, so she's not in every series, so or in every episode because she actually goes to prison for a while. But what's interesting about her arc is at the end of season 1, there's an event that causes season 2 to start with no Daphne. And she actually fills in Daphne's place for several episodes. When Daphne reappears, she's just summarily sent away from the team, which actually triggers a whole descent into evil and redemption of her character. And she, feels cast aside by Velma when pushed out of the Scooby gang. She goes back to one of the villains of the show and says, "You were right about Velma." And but in the end, she ends up sacrificing herself. So it's and that's one of the things about this series is that the characters have meaningful arcs.
So wait a minute. She dies?
She does. Off screen. There's several deaths off screen in this series.
Now, here's my question. Because we did watch this religiously, but that's been 10, 15 years ago that this came out. When did this show first come out?
2011?
Okay, it's been a while. It's hard to believe it's been that long. I don't remember this character or this arc with Marcy. So maybe it's because I was all googly eyed over Daphne and the cameos. But so I don't remember this arc. I remember the villain, Mr. E. And I was really into the subplot with Nibiru and the Anunnaki and, the potential that Scooby-Doo is a descendant of the Anunnaki and that's why he can talk and
right.
Loved all that. But I don't remember this character. Now, you had mentioned
the voice of this character was the live action Velma from the two movie. Yeah.
Really?
Linda Cardellini.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild.
And the Shaggy from this show is the Shaggy from the live action movies.
Well, and he became the voice until today. I mean, he's continued to do it. With the exception of the Scoob movie. There was some controversy about that. They They all, did their lines and recorded them. And for whatever reason, the studio brought in different actors and re-recorded the whole thing. And nobody in the cast knew that had happened until they actually watched the movie. Little
Nice.
fun fact about Scoob. But so you had mentioned offline before we went on air that the reason that the Shaggy and Velma relationship didn't work was because the creators had intended Velma to be gay.
That's right. She's not bi. That was what they said. She's not a bi character. She's gay. That's why what she's trying to force, because she's jealous of what Daphne and Fred have going on. She feels left out. She wants someone to take her to the prom, and she has this guy in her life. She tries to make something happen, and it's clearly not working for. Clearly not working for Fred. So,
but here's
for Shaggy,
yeah. Right? But here's my question. I know that they had intended to intimate that there was a romantic relationship with Marcy and Velma. Did it actually come to fruition? Was it actually something that happened on screen?
The only thing I saw on screen when I did my research this week was there's a scene where she says they're both in her bedroom, but not in the bed together, and she says, "That's my girl." So it's strongly implied kind of business.
Right. Well, and the reason I ask is because 2 years ago, you might remember, in 2022, a direct-to-video, it was, I forget what number, like 32, 34 in the direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies. It was Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, and it introduced a new character that was, and they made a big deal about it because they definitely showed Velma as having romantic intentions for this character. This is her. And throughout the whole episode, she's just smitten with Coco, was her name. And she was also a criminal. Like a criminal mastermind. Does Velma have a type?
Yes, I would say that she does. That's consistent.
Interesting.
Like I said, there's a redemption arc for Hot Dog Water.
Okay.
But again, she dies. She dies off screen, so the others can escape.
So we are led to believe that she's dead, but do we actually ever see that happen? Or
no.
have confirmation of it, rather?
Yeah. So both her and Angel Dynamite have off-screen deaths. Angel Dynamite does seem to be confirmed, but do you remember the end of this series?
Very, very vaguely. I only got to watch some clips this week, so I haven't.
So when they defeat the big bad, it changes. It's a retroactive thing when they defeat that evil that is locked inside that Aztec coffin-looking thing. They rewrite history for the whole town.
Really?
And so our heroes are amongst the few characters that know they're in an alternative timeline. So the dead characters don't stay dead because that's not how their lives went.
So that's why you referenced it as a prequel.
Right, because then they start driving around. Because they were all like, they seem sad because now there's no mystery in that town to be solved. and they are reached out to by a character was in the beginning, and he's brought back. Sort of this Harlan Ellison character is brought back, and he says, but there's mysteries everywhere else.
Interesting.
So as a freak, go ahead.
This is another frame with Coco.
Okay.
And you can see Velma's face as she is completely smitten with her.
Yes.
Well, so let's talk about some of the other new characters. I absolutely loved Gwen Stacy. I mean, Alice May.
She's a recurring villain.
Yes. But she's
and we don't always know it's her, right? We'll have a whole episode and not know that she's back until they pull the mask off her. So
right. Well, and she first disguises herself as a teenager. She is an agent of Mr. E, and she is sent to destroy Mystery Inc. And she does the Gwen Stacy disguise and is, kind of being seductive with Fred, trying to gain his attentions. And of course, for the first time, Daphne has competition. We're going to talk about this Saturday about Scooby-Doo and the WrestleMania mystery, where Daphne is head over heels for John Cena. And last 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Scooby-Doo, Batman Brave and the Bold, how she was just like super happy to be in Batman's arms, giving him the googly eyes. But we never see that happen with Fred until this show. And apparently Daphne can flirt around, but when Fred does, look at her face. She is not happy about that.
Oh, yeah. But, we find out that her character, when she's first introduced, she is kidnapping would-be male suitors. She has evil intent for him.
Yeah. But then she goes away, but she comes back as a different character. She comes back as Obliteratrix. How do you say
yes.
it?
I've heard it said, and I can't even say it. So
yeah, Obliteratrix.
Yeah, sort of the dominatrix of obliteration, right? That's kind of seems like the mix that they're going there for. Yeah,
and she's
such violence like you've never seen.
Well, and she appears just wearing leather straps. That's what she wears. Leather straps. And very for Scooby-Doo, very risque.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't get all of the images downloaded for the big. Is this the big bad?
No, this is not the real big bad in this series. Is as an entity that needs an animal body like Scooby-Doo's or the bird Professor Peregrine. What's his name? Let's see. Come on, Professor Pericles is so the mythos of this town is that since the conquistadors came to the Aztecs and captured this coffin-looking thing and carted off with it, there has been these generations of these mystery fighting groups, which are always 4 people and a talking animal, right? And so let's see, the names of those were the Hunters of Secrets, 4 youths and a jaguar, Fraternitas Mysterium, 4 friars and a donkey, and then Elianza Mysterio, 4 masked Mexicans, and a skunk named El Fuchi. The Mystery Gang, which is 4 cowgirls and their bull Tiny. The Benevolent Lodge of Mystery, 4 youths and their orangutan Mr. Peaches. The Mystery Fellowship, that's the Darrow family and their cat Whiskers. The Darrow is a very important name in this series. And then the Original Mystery Incorporated, who are all secret who they are at the beginning of this series, but all are important and recurring characters in when they're revealed who are. So that the Original Mystery Incorporated, Brad Childs, Judy Reeves, Cassidy Williams, Ricky Owens, and their parrot, Professor Pericles. And then we know Fred, Daphne, Velma, Norval, Shaggy, and Scooby-Doo. So there's this recurring, and they all disappear, right? These groups of 4 plus an animal go on a quest to find this treasure, the curse, the heart of the town, and they get so close and then they disappear. So yeah, so the big villain, overarching villain that recurs through the whole series is actually the bird, the Professor Pericles, and he was a member of the Original Mystery Incorporated. So our guys
why is he the villain? I forget all about this. I forgot all about this. As you're telling me, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that now. But why had he turned to villainy?
So all of these different groups have been searching for the mystery, which involves finding 6 slices of this giant pizza. six like gold pizza slices that fit into a giant circle. And they all get so far and then something goes wrong. And what really goes wrong starts with the animal character getting possessed. So Pericles is being manipulated by the malevolent force that's in that stuff. And he also has like a personal problem going on. He gets framed by the character who we originally meet as Fred's father, Fred Jones Sr. And he gets framed for this crime and put in like Arkham Asylum for talking animals. And early on in the first season, he escapes from that, and he becomes a recurring thorn in the people's side. Now, another sort of shadowy figure who is sometimes helping our guys and is sometimes working against them is E.
Right.
And
who Alice May is working for.
So many people. And also, what is her name? There's 2 people with really crazy names in here, and one of them Hot Dog One, and the other one is Dynamite. Angel Dynamite is also voiced by Vivica Fox. Is also working for E, and we see talking with E, and eventually sort of in conflict with E, and then revealed to be part of a team with E. And there's some big revelations in this show. Surprises. We see at one point in the series, we see the entire Scooby Gang broken up, going in different directions, given up. We see the Mystery Machine destroyed twice. It's an interesting departure from what we expect, seemingly lasting consequences for our actions. Although, as I did say, the whole events of the series and of the hundreds of years leading up to it are retconned in the end. but
well, you know
for
what?
reasonable
Right.
thing that it happened.
Well, and that's kind of a shame because there are some of these characters that I would love to see again. Um, when we talked about the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, it introduced a bunch of new villains that we haven't seen again. And a lot of fans would love to see some of those again. And I would love to see some of these storylines that were retconned, maybe wiped out of existence, or, I don't know. I just feel like there's some
Well, one thing to
possible
remember here
follow-up.
is that seemingly everybody who existed in this series, in these 2 seasons, still exists, and they still have the same sort of primary motivations. So all that would need to happen is this is a later version of Angel Dynamite, when she's So that's the same character when she kind of changes, reveals who she is. Her real name is Cassidy, and she was one of the original Mystery Incorporated characters, just like Fred's parents. And what's the 4th character? And Mr. E.
Interesting. So you say all of these characters still exist after the reset. But only Mystery Inc., only Shaggy, Scooby, Velma, Daphne, and Fred remember any of that timeline. Is that right?
There's at least one other character who does it. He's sort of he is meant to be a reference to an American history author. Horror author, and he is kind of calls them up because at the end they're like, "There is no more mysteries in our town," and he says, "No, but there are mysteries out there," and kind of sends them in their mystery machine out into the world, right? Which is an interesting origin story kind of thing. So what I was just saying, all those people still exist. So all they need to do is have some sort of catalyst in their life, and they could become the villains that we see. So they're right now they're all happy and everything, but maybe they get bored, or they fall on hard times or whatever, and we can see them become the same kind of character that they were in the show. It's interesting because the town is beset by all of this, violence and intrigue and mystery, all these people, wearing masks and doing things. But the town also doesn't want all these mysteries to be solved because their chief income is from tourism, from people who want to come see, hear the ghost stories and get involved in the mysteries that are out there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that there is this pull in the town between, hey, don't take away another one of our, hauntings or another one of our mysteries. We need those to make money. Oh, but thanks for getting to the bottom of that, evil manticore who was causing problems. And most of the actual deaths in this series, though, are caused by that bird.
And remind me what happens to Pericles in the end.
Well, in the end, he's not a possessed, not a damaged, not a unfairly imprisoned bird, and he is perfectly happy. But in the end, he is in the final episode. They are the former version of Mystery Incorporated is trying to get to the treasure, and they need some of the keys, the secrets that the new Mystery Inc. has found. So they're intentionally being followed by them so they can turn the tables and use those keys to get through. And we have sort of almost a homage to Fifth Element, as these keys each represent an element, wind, and fire, and earth, in order to unlock their way in. There's Mr. E.
Yeah, and he is kind of he's it's funny that he and Shaggy have a confrontation because he's kind of the Shaggy of
He
that.
is the Shaggy of their team, yeah. so that each of these squads has a corresponding character. There was a movie, A Cabin in the Woods. Did you ever see that?
No.
So, as a live action, somewhere between sci-fi and horror movie, made by Joss Whedon, really for the genre, probably one of my favorites. It really turns some things on the head. It has the idea of archetypes. We need each one of these horror movie archetypes in order to fit. So we have this idea that we have this squad of 4 plus an animal, and each of them is an archetype that must be in this recurring curse. Because remember, these 4 and the animal, they disappear once they get to a certain point in the mystery every time. So it's interesting.
I need to go back and watch this show because we did absolutely adore it. And this is one of those series that I include in my list of series that were better than the original. Things like, Spectacular Spider-Man and The Batman and, Young Justice. Things that the previous better than the previous franchise, and Mystery Incorporated for me is one of those.
Yeah, I'm going to have to heartily recommend this series for anyone who thought, Scooby-Doo is just for kids, and each episode is very formulaic. And then, so it's for those who are like, Scooby-Doo, it's not my favorite, but I wish it was more. Excellent recommendation here. And then if you were a real fan of Scooby-Doo and you want more, I want more to happen for my characters. I want them to face more complicated villains, and I want there to at least be repercussions for the things that are going on. I think you're also got a unique and powerful series. 52 episodes. So much to enjoy if you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And we have Dave Mattingly joining us in the virtual rec room. He says, "Zoinks!" And Dave Mattingly says, "Cabin in the Woods, identified archetype tropes. Shaggy would be the fool."
Yes.
Outstanding. Well, any other thoughts about... Oh, and is this the author character that you were talking about that sends them off? Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name?
Let me see if
Doesn't
I can
show.
find it.
I don't see it. But yeah, he's the one. He shows up in the very beginning of the series, and he shows up at the end, and he gives them a reason to carry on.
Yeah, I don't... It's not Brad Childs, is it?
That name's not...
No, that's not. Yeah, I don't see anywhere that he is named in my notes. That is so interesting, but he is the one who sets them on their path. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because he is, besides the Scooby Gang, as far as we know, he's the only one who knows that they're in a new timeline.
Well, could it be that he's actually the author of all of the action happening?
It's a real possibility. He's taken as a scientist who has been exploring sub-nuclear technology at Miskatonic University. So he's definitely a sort of a Lovecraftian character, although there is a reoccurring character in this called H.P. Hatecraft.
Yeah.
He's not that.
I mean, they borrow a lot of ideas from classic horror franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, television series Twin Peaks, and of course the works of H.P. Lovecraft, along with classic monster horror films from the previous stories. In the second season, there's a lot of the Babylonian mythology, exploring the Anunnaki, and that's when I really got like invested, because I love mythology, and I was taking deep dives into the Anunnaki lore at the time, so that was very cool. I got introduced to it through the Art Bell show. So the Anunnaki. Well, you know what we should do next, Dennis? I think you wanted to talk about a board game, and as we do this, I want to acknowledge one of our promotional partners, because I'm going to be down at New South Pro Wrestling, just outside of Huntsville in Priceville, Alabama, for the Saga Continues, their Star Wars themed wrestling show on November 2nd. So if you are in the Huntsville, Priceville area, check out New South Pro Wrestling, and I would love to see you at the Saga Continues on November the 2nd.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So here's what I found, Dennis. Talk to us about.
Okay, so there is a classic Avalon Hill board game called Betrayal at House on the Hill. And that system, that game system, is really interesting in that you start out with your friends and you're all cooperatively exploring a giant mansion. And then as you're exploring the mansion, you discover these omens. And in the end, the room that you're in, when you discover a certain omen, triggers the haunt. Now, this is a similar kind of game, same system. In fact, the way that the stats of the characters are done is exactly the same. You are exploring this mansion with the rest of the Scooby Gang, and then you find a particular scary item, a clue in a particular room, and then that will tell you will relive a sort of classic Scooby-Doo mystery based on where so if you love Scooby-Doo, you want to have a game. Now, what I like about Betrayal and games like this is the idea of being part of a grand story, so that you'll remember. In Betrayal, which I've played many times, you have so many classic sci-fi and horror stories that trigger as you do it. And so this is the same thing, maybe a little more lighthearted, more reachable for a younger audience, certainly for fans of Scooby-Doo. So I think it's a great buy, and it's cheap out there.
Is it cooperative?
So it must be. So the traditional game Betrayal is all cooperative until one person becomes the betrayer. In this game, because you are the Scooby Gang, then it's unclear which character is going to be the betrayer. Once it's revealed, then all but one of the Scooby Gang are going to work to try to defeat and unmask the revealed big bad. So I think it's a great game. Certainly within the price range. I think Amazon's got it for $20 out there. So great. And if you pick that game up and you like it and you think I'm a little bit darker, a little bit more extensive, then I really want to recommend the classic Avalon Hill Betrayal. It is a good time, 60 minutes or so, to be part of a really interesting story. I remember one time in Betrayal, me and my fellow characters were shrunk down to the size of mice to become food for the villain's cat. And we had to find this model airplane and fly it out the front door in order to escape. And I remember one time that the youngest character in our game, had this evil incantation she was doing on a pentagram in the basement, and she was stealing all of our lives so she could stay forever young. And we, as the rounds of the game went forward, we all aged And as we aged, we couldn't move as far, fight as fast, and we had to defeat her before
Now,
she took all our lives.
now, did you know that you were aging, or was that a surprise?
So it was a surprise when it was revealed, and there's usually some secret that only the betrayer knows about what they need to win, and there's some secret that only the players know about how to defeat the betrayer. But yeah, you knew that you knew that you were feeling weaker as time was going on, and and that's and it seemed like they were stealing the life force. The details of it you didn't know. And you had to keep exploring the house to find the room that had the secret to defeat her before she aged you out, as it were.
Now, this sounds a lot like a cooperative role play game. Is there? I
Yeah.
mean,
So you have characters. They have 4 stats, and as you play the games, you explore the rooms. Each one of those 4 stats is an opportunity to go up. And they have items that will also raise or lower those stats.
and
That you
that's
will
what
discover in
we're
rooms.
seeing right here, right?
Right, right. So
Yeah.
you have 2 physical attributes that affect your speed and agility, and then you have 2 mental attributes that have to do with your will and your smarts. So it says this courage and brains here. So absolutely, like, then the Betrayal game has those same 4 stats: 2 physical, 2 mental. Um, uh, Ability, and those sliders. If you look at each of the characters, you'll see that there's one number that's in green. That's where your character's stat's going to start, and then as you play the game, that stat can go up. But when you take damage, it'll say take 1 physical damage, take 2 physical damage, or it'll say take 2 dies of physical damage. So you roll the dice, and they can come up with 0, 1, or 2, and then you'll have to reduce those. And if any one of your stats gets down to the little skull, then you have been defeated. So
That's fantastic. So you've sold me on this game, and you sold me on Castle Panic too, which I haven't picked up yet. But Target, as a follow up to that episode that you showed us, Castle Panic, Target has issued a like the base game at $19.99.
right, and I think these
Yeah.
are both 2 games that you should really consider picking up that are in that $20 range. That's a great price, and Target is a great place to find some extraordinary deals on some really good games. Now they have all the games that are kind of garbagey too, so you got to know what you're looking for. But they've got some great games at great prices at Target.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got so Justin Retro Things channel. Are you going to have a panel? A panel at what? He says, I'm a big fan of retro. We are too, Justin. We love all things retro on this show. But I don't know where we're gonna have a panel. I don't know.
At the wrestling there?
At the New South. No panels. But we will be broadcasting live. I mean, look, it's pro wrestling, and they're pro wrestling as Star Wars characters. I mean, how much cooler can you get?
That sounds
The saga
fantastic.
continues. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And this game sounds like a ton of fun to me. You know what? This is going to be the next on our list for my family game night, because I have a feeling, based on it being cooperative and based on it being Scooby-Doo themed, that my family will actually sit down and play this with me, because they just like party games, and there's
And it's not too long. So some of these role-playing game board games, like I have there's a couple of Dungeon and Dragon ones I have, they can be an hour and a half, 2 hours, or have a campaign mode where you have to play forever, right? And what's great about Betrayal is that it is, and this is an even shorter version than the classic Betrayal game. 50 minutes, I think, was the top expected playtime for this game. So, that's a reasonable amount of time for a family to sit around a table and have an adventure together.
Yeah. If we can get in a game under 30 minutes or in around 30 minutes, that's like our sweet spot. But this feels like it could fit that mold.
Yeah, I think the time frame they expect for a game is 30 to 50 minutes. Obviously, longer when you're learning it for the first time, and then you get into the rhythm, and then each time, totally different game, right? Same rules, different story. So
that's awesome. So that makes the playability limitless, the replayability.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you'll get the same. In the classic Betrayal, if you trigger the haunt, and it's one you've already done, so the rules say pick a different one, or keep going exploring the house until you trigger it again. If you want a different story, so
that's fantastic. Yeah. I love that. Well, Dennis, we're coming up at under an hour tonight. Any last thoughts about Mystery Incorporated or Betrayal at the Haunted Mansion, or Mystery Mansion rather?
Yeah, Mystery Mansion. Yes. No, this series really struck me as extraordinary. You've got underwater submarines. You've got mechanized robots. You have people being controlled by auditory. So you have all these classic characters come back. The creators of this series they put it all in there. They really gave us more than we could expect from Scooby-Doo, and I think that if you haven't watched it, you should.
It's really a love letter to the Scooby-Doo mythos and the lore.
Yeah, it brings something new, but without dishonoring what was there, and I think it's really, really great.
Yeah. Well, that's that. I love this series, and now that we've talked about it, and you've jogged my memory on some issues or some aspects, I am going to go back and watch this again. Now, we were talking about Daphne and Velma. I do have to show these off. If you have a Five Below near you, you guys, check this out. These are the metal figures. These are die-cast metal, painted, and they're just teeny tiny. But Daphne and Velma, I mean, how cool are those?
Did they have the other characters there too?
They did at one point. They had Fred. They had one Fred, but they were sold out of Shaggy and Scooby. So they did do all five of them. So someone out there can probably find all five. Let
me give you a recommendation here. So I've seen a number of pictures of it. If you do buy the Betrayal game,
yes,
the characters are little cardboard standees, right? So
these if you perfect.
And those or the Lego Scooby Gang or what, you're looking for a character about that size. There's been a bunch of different incarnations of them. Wouldn't that be great to make those your little characters in that game?
Yes.
And you get painted. Betrayal comes with painted characters for their. So this version has cardboard standees. So it really is fitting with the theme to put in little characters.
I dropped Velma, but yes, that is a great idea. And these are $5 each at Five Below. So yeah, go grab them. Well, Dennis, we are up against the hour. It is time for us to say so long, farewell. Thank you so much for your insight and your expertise on Mystery Incorporated, and for helping reintroduce me to a show that I loved, but I'd forgotten so much about. So this will be a great end of October rewatch for me. But
sounds great.
52 episodes. That's a lot.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll talk about gargoyles.
Yes. So Our November episode with Dennis will be focusing on gargoyles, which will kind of fit into our kaiju theme loosely for November. So yeah, we'll talk about gargoyles in November. That'll be awesome.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Because I have a confession to make. I've never seen gargoyles.
Oh, did you see Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Yes.
Then I'll give you a reason to love gargoyles.
Well, I know Jonathan Frakes and
Marina Sirtis.
Sears. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know what we'll talk more about it in November, but for whatever reason, I've never watched gargoyles. I know I should have my geek card pulled. But
hey, now you have a chance once again to watch a series that you've never seen before for the first time.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. All right, well, everybody watching, if you like what we do, make sure you share this video or the audio if you're listening with 200-300 of your closest friends and family. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, post a review, make it good. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bells, follow us so you never miss another episode. And if you want to host your own show once a month like Dennis is, become a VIP member at Patreon, patreon.com/serialboxpodcast. And Dennis, people can follow and find you at Books and More in Pulaski, Tennessee. Big game nights on Thursday night, and that's every week?
Every week.
What time does it start?
6 o'clock.
So if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, southern Middle Tennessee area, head up to, or even if you're in the Huntsville area, head up to Pulaski, Tennessee, 6 o'clock, board game night at Books and More. Dun, dun, dun.
Thanks a lot. See you guys.
Thank you. And until the next time, everyone, love you, mean it. We'll catch you on the back of the cereal box.
It's like Coca-Cola.